The British audio company Quad, with their founder Peter Walker, have been responsible for numerous audio products in our industry. None more famous than their electrostatic speakers. So they decided to create a pair of headphones and apply all of their skills to this project, being the Era-1, the Era-1. Let's have a look, shall we? So this planar headphone is created and engineered in the UK. Whether it's manufactured here in the UK, I could not find out. But Quad definitely creates this planar headphone. Ooh, rather beautiful. Let's put that here for now. And we get a balanced cable. I think this is provided via Mimic. Thank you so much for sending these headphones in for review. Mimic is a dealer in audio products such as this Quad, Focal, Benchmark, IFI, and the list is absolutely endless. Thank you so much, mate. I appreciate it. Let's put this over here so that it's out of the way. Actually, before we do that, this case is rather rugged, very protective, and reminiscent of the Meze Lyrique case. I think it might be leather. Hey, well done. Nicely etched here, with a nice handle and everything. Hey, it's pretty solid. I've seen far more expensive headphones with far less impressive presentation. Very nice. Okay, so let's have a look at this cable first. This balanced braided cable. We come to the first problem. Let me actually show you the cable that it actually comes with. So this cable is designed to be used at a desk, obviously. It's a 6 feet cable, 3.5 to 3.5. So these 3.5 connectors are ultra narrow, very, very, very narrow. Setting that problem aside, let's actually do a headphone tour first. Yeah, that is a definite leather headband. Now this headband is very narrow, but it's got good spongy plushiness underneath for the top of the head, and the sides are not as plushy, so you get a lot more sponge underneath the headband as you do on the sides. I have found absolutely no issue with the comfort. It's built really solidly. Arms extend, not too much at all, about that much, and it's okay. I've seen better. Something like the Fostex 909s is a lot more premium feeling, but it's not bad at all. It stays exactly where you usually set it, so that's not too bad. And then we come down to these metal grills that covers the planar driver inside, which is 20 ohms at 94 dB sensitivity. Make a note of that. These headphones are extraordinarily difficult to drive properly. Not drive, but drive properly. Very solidly built. The weight seems to congregate on the drivers themselves. These magnets are pretty big. 420 grams or so, this headphone. So very nicely built. And then coming down to the cups, these rotate a little bit forward and back, not too much. I would say about 15 degrees. Yeah, definitely. And they go forward and back, so they can create a nice, comfortable seal on the head. Let's actually take off one of the cups so I can show you the inside. These are pretty big cups, 3 fingers, as Z likes to put it. These are a 3-finger cup, like so. It's pretty good. And the clicking mechanism is very much in reminiscent of Focal Stellia. This is a hybrid pad. It comes with 2 sets of pads, the lambskins. These are wedged, much thicker at the back than at the front. We'll have a look at that momentarily. So, as you can see, this one is a 4-finger opening. This is a very, very, very big pad. Very plushy. The sponge bounces back instantly. This hybrid pad it comes with is much more tapered, much more narrow, and a much thinner profile. Look at this side by side. This one at the back is twice as thick. But the sound characteristics these provide over these, we will get onto in the sound section because it's freaking huge. They click back onto the drivers like so, very, very easily, so you can actually swap on the fly pretty damn quickly. These are very, very well built headphones. So the price point of these headphones is $799, around £600 or so. Firmly sitting in the mid-fi category, but in the upper tier of the mid-fi category, I would say close to Ananda's and some other headphones like the LCD2 these days that sit in this category. Construction, very well designed. Quad have patented a non-linear vibration technology to assist with the frequency response and how low this driver goes from the sub-bass up to the treble region to ensure ultra clarity and good detail and spatial presentation. Okie dokie, companies do make such claims all the time. How well they work in reality is a whole different story. So let's discuss the sound, shall we? First of all, I would like to say I am utterly surprised by the quality of these headphones. Quad licenses out their driver technology to other companies, and I believe the Brainwave Alaras have the same drivers as these headphones, but those are half the price. And don't be deceived. When a company does something like this, it doesn't mean they sound the same. It doesn't mean they'll perform the same. And it doesn't mean they're the same caliber headphones. I've seen a lot of comments online saying these are a rip-off version of those because they're twice the price. And not having them side by side, I really can't say, but remember, a lot more goes into the headphones than just the driver. For example, this patented technology we mentioned earlier, Quad does not, I believe, give them access to this. The housing, the dampening, the build quality, all of these will play a role on how these sound, how these feel on your head, etc. If you have both of these, please put it in the comment section and let me know how much of a difference you think there is between the two. Let's start a discussion down there. Second of all, I'm actually utterly surprised how these were just flown under the radar. I see very few reviewers talk about these, and it's a shame because yes, they are hard to drive. Very, very hard to drive. Very hard to drive well. But they are an exceptional headphone when you put the effort in. In fact, so much so, I'm utterly surprised. They are a baby Aria in all sense. Built 1,000 times better though, by the way. And I would say Aria is a little bit more comfortable. Those things are pretty comfortable, but the size of the cups for my head shape were overly long. I think you need to have Alsatian ears for those, but they're ultra comfortable. Arias are light, but they're built like a toy. They're built awfully. Their cable is awful, their presentation is awful, but they're very comfortable. But these, in tuning, really do remind me of a Aria, except an Aria that is driven to its full potential on a benchmark and minimum Spring 3 from Hollow Audio, not on your top-in A90, D90 or SMSL amplifiers or something like the Synxer SA1. I've tried all of those and they're all meh on Arias. The only amps I like Aria on are power amps, because you really do need to push those drivers hard. Not because it doesn't get loud on those, no, it's because it doesn't get the full capability of the drivers out of those amplifiers, not in the slightest. But a lot of people do run their Arias on those, so it is what it is. I ran the Arias on the A90 for a long time and it was fine, but I never fell in love with it. Not until I heard it on the benchmark, and then I was actually blown away. And this has provided the same situation. I've been using it on a regular basis around the house on the IFI Go Blue up there and on the Cartus T. Thank you, Mo, for sending that in. Thank you, IFI, for sending in the Go Blue. And walking around, it gets good volume and it gets nice tonal balance and very, very gentle presentation, which is wonderful. I mean, these are quite laid back. But when I put it on the chain behind me, on like the Or and the Hypsos, or on the Serene, or on the May and the Benchmark, or on the Dave, or on the TT2, completely different story. Whether you will buy a headphone for $700-800 when you've got a $25,000 chain and you're in this Asvara category. That's completely dependent on you. It depends how much you love this hobby and how much you like having different headphones for different things, because these have got the daily driver written all over it. These are 420 grams, but they weigh a lot lighter than that on the head. They're very well distributed. I find them very comfortable for my head shape. Your mileage may vary. So let's get back onto the sound. The overall tonal balance of these headphones is slightly warm, slightly laid back, neutral-ish. There is no peaks anywhere really. Maybe in the 5.5 category, just a little bit, depending on how you amplify this. But on amplifiers such as the Serene behind me, well, it's a pre that can be used as an amplifier, that goes away utterly, so it's smooth. It's very well textured, spatial presentation is great, and what you find is that everything works on it. It's a headphone like Arya that you can comfortably play any genre of music on. And most importantly, alongside the tonal balance, you find good timbral information from this headphone. In fact, so much better than a lot of the flagship categories such as the Focal Clear MG, Focal Clear OG, Sennheiser HD800S, LCD X. This has a much better timbre than all of those headphones. It has better tonal balance than those headphones. This honestly is like a baby Arya, because Arya can sound warm if you use a Benchmark and a Spring 3, or a Purify and a Spring 3. It's got this warm tint to it, not overly so, but somewhat, which gives it a little flavor, and this has that. It's laid back, so you never feel overly fatigued by anything. Vocals tend to move over there a little bit, but they're very present within the stage. I am utterly surprised by these. And I'm even more surprised that less people talked about it. That is using these hybrid pads. Because when you jump over to these pads, the full lambskin, yep, definitely leather, and they're ultra soft and comfortable, and much bigger opening. Yeah, they are a bigger pad, look. I mean, you can see it just like that. You get even more laid back mid-range. It actually becomes very dark, but the treble region extends a lot. And for me personally, even on the Serene, which is a beautifully liquid, smooth sounding amplifier, I found it a bit tiring after a little while. I'm very sensitive to the treble region, especially upper mid-range, and I found those a bit tiring, but you get a little bit more detail. So, before we break down the frequency response, let's actually discuss some tracks with this headphone. Shall we take the track we all know very well by now if you're a long-time viewer of the channel? The most difficult track that I usually try and break headphones with? Hans Zimmer's Pirates of the Caribbean. You must be getting sick and tired of me talking about this track on headphones, but I promise you, it's like taking your race car to the best track to see what it can do. Because you know the track, you know every curve of the track, you know every stop on the track, and it pushes drivers to its absolute limits. I've not found a single other track that is as complicated as this. There doesn't seem to be one. I've been searching, and I mean, I've got a library of 200,000 songs or so. By listening to some of our other reviews, you realize how headphones perform to this track, this hardest of tracks. And then you can see that the driver's potential. I'm going to talk about these headphones driven properly. On the May and the Serene, and then on the IFI signature behind me. Because a little tube pre really does go a long way sometimes with certain headphones. Taking these hybrid pads, which are the warmer, darker sounding ones first. We get a laid back presentation, a very big stage, surprisingly so, like especially in the depth. And as the instruments kick in on our right, you find that first note resonates within that stage extraordinarily well. There is no thinness, and your eardrums will tingle with the vibrations of the strings and the vibrations of that low note that attacks first. It's got a not bad edge of attack. Everything's smooth, but really not smoothed over. Atrium has this beautiful presentation as well, where the actual instruments are smooth, but you don't lose detail. There is good enough detail there to identify instruments in the sense that yes, this is not just an average headphone. And what you find really vivid with this track is that instruments are very, very present within the stage. And separation, due to the expansive nature of the stage, really does separate out well. The mid-range is rather beautiful on these headphones. It's, I would say, mid and bass centric, but with a laid-back nature to the tonality of the headphones. Really like Arya, honestly, but the vocals can come forward and back. So as the instruments all coincide together during this track as it progresses, you find the drums have wonderful impact, but it's over there. Textural information, I would say, is better on something like an Atrium or Aeolus over there from ZMF, but textual information is good enough on this. I would say it's the best I've heard under $1,000, easily. It's a really, really good headphone. Legitimately, this is a comfortable, good sounding headphone. When the track rises to its crescendo, when the vocalists from the choir kick in, the high notes of the French horn and the other instruments that kick in within the soundscape of this specific track, it's not discordant or harsh to the ears. Instruments on this headphone are better separated than the Aeolus over there, not on the levels of Atrium. And the reason why I'm bringing Atrium and Aeolus up so much in this review is because all of these are very comfortable, sort of a dark mid-range, beautiful lushness soundscape, and they're very, very similar in that sort of tuning of comfort and being able to enjoy the track, and slightly warm, but these are not as dark as the Aeolus over there. So as the track rises to its crescendo with the vocals and all the instruments along the stage like this, you can point out clusters of instruments. I would not say it's like a Sazvara where each instrument's identifiable, no way. But on the Aeolus, you got 3 or 4 instruments where it felt like they were dominant because the little instruments were overly lost and overly smoothed over. On this, they're a little bit more identifiable so that you can see it's an actual orchestra. They're not as forward. You can't individually pick out each instrument, I would say. But it's smoothed over in the upper mid-range region where that crescendo doesn't feel discordant. Drums have a nice impact if it's powered well. And when it's not powered well, it's not that they don't have an impact, it's that the actual mid-bass tends to overswell and it becomes a little bloomy, which is really odd. Only when it's powered exceptionally well that this characteristic fades away and you get good texture and good springiness in that mid-bass attack. It's really does need to be powered well. These are very difficult to drive. Very, very difficult to drive. 94 dB sensitivity. I mean, an IFI Go Blue gets it loud, but it doesn't get it good. So let's break down the frequency response. Like I stated, this is a bass and mid-range centric headphone, so sub-bass is rather elevated. Separation is good because the stage is so big. You can actually point out instruments within this stage quite well. Akin to Arya, where it goes really low, sub-bass instruments have a tendency to be able to breathe, far more so than Aeolus over there. Climbing up to the mid-bass, this is where sometimes it can become a little overly warm and a little overly bloated when it's not powered correctly. So when it's powered correctly, it's rather punchy. It's got good authority, but it's not really in your face like, for example, a focal clear MG would be, where that attack is so viscerally hard. The drivers in this are not overly quick, but they're not slow either. They provide a nice middle ground. Honestly, they are pretty damn good, but not overly quick. The Aeolus drivers are a little bit slower than this, but those are dynamic, obviously, and these are a planar. Neither of them can compare to something like a Verite closed. The polyethylene naphthalate with the beryllium overlay is super quick, but those are 2.5 times the price of these. So climbing up to the upper bass region, this gives good credence to drums and stuff. It definitely does not feel lacking or any instrument sound thin in any genre I've tested it on. These are conducive to a nice variety of genres. You can listen to rock on this because of that slightly warm sound signature. It sounds beautiful. Electric guitars sound nice. And jazz is very, very nicely presented on this due to the stage and smooth treble region, where we have a lot of discordant instruments in jazz most of the time. So, mid-range on this headphone, the lower mids is slightly forward, upper mids is more linear, goes up, and the upper mid-range tilts back a bit, so it's a little bit sort of stepping back over there a little bit, and it gives that sort of spaciousness, that comfortable, oh, I'm just listening to headphones, nothing's in my face really. But it has a beautiful mid-range. It's lush, it's liquid sounding, and a nice warm tilt. And it resolves really well in this category, surprisingly so. In fact, I think I prefer it more than some other headphones we've had here that I've actually felt towards. Like the Focal Clear MG's mid-range, I prefer this, I think. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's nice on that headphone, pretty special, but on this, I think it resolves instrument better. Textural information is better in the mid-range, and the vivacity of vocals popping in the stage, very much in reminiscent of CMA Empyrean, the first one. That kind of like vivacity, it's really nice. It's really well done. I have very few things that I dislike about these headphones. Treble region resolves okay. Instrument separation is okay. It's well extended, so it's quite airy at times when orchestras and live music require it. It's very, very transparent, the drivers. It's very clean sounding. Surprisingly so for this category. There's no graininess, you know. Cymbals and hi-hats are resolved quite well. There is none of that splashiness or crunchiness when the stick attacks the hi-hats. No, it's got good timbre. Timbral information is very good on this headphone as well. Giving you a rough idea of the frequency response without measurements just by listening on the hybrid pads. It's a comfortable headphone. It's a daily driver headphone. It's a headphone that goes from YouTube all the way up to listen to your favorite orchestra. And I'm really surprised how little I've heard about it from reviewers. It's kind of sad because they're built well. Their looks is industrial. It looks all right. Seen much worse. So before we get onto equipment pairing, let's talk about some caveats. What don't I like about this headphone? Well, the cable is okay, it's nice, but I would like to run this balanced, and I think it only comes with this one, the cloth one. This one was provided by Mimic. I think he built this cable himself. He actually makes cables as well. So that being the first problem, these are very hard to drive, and a lot of amplifiers that most people have don't perform well in their single-ended aspects. Most amplifiers these days seems to concentrate on balanced and provide all the power in the balance section. So this being single-ended is annoying. It's like the Bayer Dynamics, where, to be fair, those seem to like single-ended amps a lot more than balanced. I've never found a Bayer Dynamic that sounded good balanced. Single-ended was always the way to go, but these sound incredibly good on balanced. So cable might be necessary there. The second problem being these connectors, not the end that goes into the amp, but the end that goes into the headphones themselves are, when we can find it, ultra narrow. Really, really narrow. This reminds me of the Diana V2 where custom cables would be a freaking nightmare. I have so many cables over there that are really well built, really comfortable, ultra high quality, gold-plated silver, etc. that cost more than these headphones, but I couldn't use any of them. I couldn't, because the connectors on the headphones here, they are so narrow and they're so deeply set and they're so etched in. This reminds me of that stupid connector from P9 Signatures where they've built this shape for the connector to go inside that no cable, I mean, I can demonstrate it to you very easily by using the other end of the cable, which is a 3.5, exactly the same as that. As we put this in, it doesn't work because this part of the connector is too thick. It just doesn't work. So finding a custom cable for these, because if you want to take it balanced or etc. or on the go getting another variation of the cable is very difficult. You must let your custom cable maker know what headphone it's for. And they need to do some serious measurements because that is a freaking nightmare. That's a con. I don't like that at all in the slightest. The third being, I want a little bit more pad up top. I think it's comfortable. I don't get any hot spots, but I think other people might. It's okay. It's enough. And because the foam is really, really kind of solid, it provides a nice cushion up here. And it's okay, but I think it could have been better. Maybe a little bit deeper. When you think on the Atrium Crescent headband, it's yeah. But it's very solidly built. It's very nice. Not bad at all. And I think that also how difficult these are to drive, but to be fair, that's not a con. That's just a driver limitation. Those are the caveats I would have for this headphone because they're priced pretty cheaply actually for the performance you get out of them and for the build quality and for the fact that they're British. Always gets 2 tigers from me extra. So the equipment I ran these on, starting with the IFI Go Blue. It makes them sound like the world's best Bluetooth headphone, obviously, like Stelias do and like Lyrique does and stuff, not on the levels of those, but you can definitely tell you have taken something special and turned it into a Bluetooth headphone that you can walk around with and you get a wonderful performance because of that timbre and tuning. So IFI Go Blue drives them good enough around the house or the office, so you don't have to carry anything bulky with you, definitely. And it gives good enough low end to get a good sense of punch and attack. So yeah, it's been pretty good. The Serene has been a good experience with these. Stage really does open up, depth and width wise. Separation is wonderful on that thing and it's liquid sounding with a nice step back, very relaxed listen. Even when listening to metal and overly badly mastered tracks, you still get the nice soul of the song and you're just not presented with a horribleness that's actually happening. So for example, throwing that on something like the where are you? Oh, you're up there, the LCD5. You can't listen to badly mastered tracks on that thing. It will tell you every ounce of it and you just end up hating life. But this doesn't do that. On the Chord Dave, yeah, of course, it was wonderful. I mean, what do you expect? And it powered it quite well from the actual internal amp as well. I'm quite surprised. Did a good job. Beautiful mid-range, black background, wonderful separation, but it's to be expected. It's the freaking Dave. The best pairing I think for this have been the Benchmark AHB2 and the May, where you get the power of the Benchmark and you get the beautiful organic nature of the ladder DAC of the May. Absolutely spectacular. In fact, I've been using it for an entire day like that and not considering other headphones or wanting to reach for something else because it's been good enough. These are really a baby Aria. I'm astonished by them. And for that price point, you can probably get it used even cheaper these days. That brings us finally to the proper lambskin leather pads, the wedged ones. What do you get more? compared to the other pads. Both pads are provided to you, so you can swap on the fly. It's wonderful. I mean, it's a good thing to have when companies give you a bunch of pads to actually try different things with the headphones themselves. You get a bit more stage, you definitely get a bit more detail, but it's a colder sound. It's definitely not as warm. It's definitely not as laid back. It's definitely more forward in the 6K region. You get good snap and attack of sticks and certain instruments where that resonance in that region attacks, but I find it personally a little fatiguing. You get a lot more air on this. And the mid-range does take a step back even more. And I don't like that. I'm a mid-range guy. I love my mid-range on headphones. It's what draws me in. It's what I feel inside here more than any other part of the frequency response. I can actually forgive a lot. But this is for someone else who loves the treble and the detail a lot more than the tonal balance, timbre, and warm nature of a dark sound signature. And that's my preference. Your mileage will vary. But if you do have these, or if you do buy these, swap them and see what you feel is the best one for you, because all of our listening preferences are very, very different. I like mid-range. I love mid-range, and I love sub-bass, and I love punch. Treble region, it can be laid back for me. I don't mind. Just don't be harsh, you know? So, conclusion. Do I think these are worth it? 100%. Do I think these should be talked about a lot more? Yes. Do I think more people should try them? Definitely. Because I think you might be surprised. Legitimately so. And you can take them with you if you're walking around the house, and they're comfortable and they're beautifully built. Very solid. If you have these, let me know in the comment section how you've been getting on with them, because I think they've been around for quite a few years now. I don't think these are new at all. It's just a shame they're not talked about as much. So I fully heartedly recommend them. And if you're interested and you want a discount, 15%, chat to Mimic. Say you came from ConvinceMeAudio. I don't get any kickbacks, but I managed to get that offer for you guys just because you guys watch these videos and you deserve something, you know? So if you're buying something in $1,000 region, 15% is a lot of money. So yes, reach out to him, email him. His information is down below. Or if you want to get these used, there are plenty of places. Headfi, etc., or in our swap meet, or in our Telegram chats where people are constantly throwing in equipment around as if it's raining, and you can pick up some amazing stuff at good prices because people want new things. So consider joining our Patreon, or consider joining the public Telegram chat. Patreon for early reviews, obviously. Let's do the Tiger scores. Build quality, 4 Tigers out of 5. Ergonomics, 2 Tigers out of 5. I'm sorry, that 3.5 connector is a nightmare, and I've seen better. And I've seen worse. The Bear dynamics are much, much worse. This is slightly better than those. But when you do it gently like this, it changes nicely. And it stays on the head like that. So, 2 Tigers ergonomically. Yeah. 3, no, 2 Tigers. I'm sorry, that cable thing is, no. Sound quality, 4 Tigers out of 5. Price, 4 Tigers out of 5. The fact that it's British, subjectively, and I'm being biased, 5 Tigers out of 5, of course. Do I think you should try them? Yes. So what the overall score for these headphones is a 3 solid Tiger, absolutely brilliant. Why are they not 4 Tigers? Because custom cables is a nightmare, and if your cables break, which they will, all cables break at some point, you're going to be running around trying to find another one, and that is not fun. And they're hard to drive as well. Very hard to drive. Very, very hard to drive well. So, thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you on the next one. And thanks again to Mimic for sending these in for review. You're a legend. Hope to chat to you in the comment section down below. I'm Koji CO. Peace.